Hello and welcome. Today we begin our show with Egypt's intensified diplomatic efforts aimed at bringing peace to Sudan, where a raging war between the Sudanese army and paramilitary rapid support forces has battered the country. The Egyptian Foreign Minister met with Sudanese Army Chief Abdel Fattah Al-Burhan. The Egyptian minister conveyed President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi's greetings during his visit to Port Sudan and reaffirmed the country's unwavering support for Sudan's unity, security and stability. The Egyptian minister reiterated Cairo's ongoing efforts to secure a peace deal through bilateral, regional and international channels and stressed the need to commit to the peace plan. Egypt has also called for the immediate establishment of aid corridors to address the worsening humanitarian crisis. The Egyptian minister also met his Sudanese counterpart in a separate meeting. Both sides discussed expanding cooperation in electricity, water, health, education and reconstruction. They also agreed to convene the second Egypt-Sudan Business Forum, a joint trade committee meeting in Cairo. Meanwhile, Sudan's army chief also met the UN humanitarian chief Tom Fletcher in Port Sudan. The talks were aimed at ensuring aid deliveries to all corners of the war-ravaged country. Fletcher lauded the constructive talks.
I very much welcome the constructive conversations I had with President Burhan, aimed at ensuring that we can continue to operate everywhere across Sudan to deliver in a neutral, independent, and impartial way for all those who are in such dire need of international support.
Fletcher is in Sudan for a week-long mission, which is focused on peace efforts, upholding the UN Charter, and getting access and funding needed to save lives across the battle lines. Fletcher also met Egyptian diplomats to discuss scaling up aid. The talks come 2 weeks after the RSF captured El Fasher, which was the last army stronghold in western Darfur. The takeover was marred by multiple reports of mass killings, sexual violence, abduction and looting. According to the UN Migration Agency, since El Fasher's fall, nearly 90,000 people have fled, while tens of thousands remain trapped in famine-like conditions. Last week, the RSF said it had agreed to a truce proposal mediated by the US, Saudi Arabia, the UAE and Egypt. The Sudanese army is yet to respond to the peace deal, but this did not lead to relief on the ground. The attacks have persisted. Fierce fighting has continued in Darfur and Kordofan. The RSF has deployed forces to the strategic city of Baba Nusa in West Kordofan. It has been threatening to fight until the last moment. The UN Migration Agency said nearly 39,000 people have fled fighting in several towns across the oil-rich Kordofan since the fall of El Fasher. Even as peace efforts continue, the war on the ground is far from over. And as warring sides fight for greater control, the people of Sudan continue to pay the cost. And for more on this, we have with us Meki El-Maghrabi, a Sudanese consultant and former diplomat to the United States. Thank you, Meki, for joining us.
Thank you, Joshua.
I first want to look at the discussions that have been had, the bilateral talks that have taken place in Egypt, or between Egypt and the Sudanese army. Do you think these take anything away from the pursuit of peace in Sudan, considering that there were business talks?
I think that Egyptian-Sudanese relation is a complement rather than a detract for peace, for searching peace in Sudan. So I think that this visit from Egyptian Foreign Minister Badr Abdelatty is pushing the peace process. But the question here, what kind of peace? Here the question. A proposal of peace that legalizing the militia of RSF and give it a legitimate status, or a proposal of peace that will end the war and end the militia and then go to the process of DDR and completing the peace steps in Sudan. So the word peace is good, and I think Sudan and Egypt, all of them, all other actors that friend of Sudan, they are pushing for peace. But what kind of peace? Here the question.
Yes, and building on that, of course, the Sudanese army are yet to respond to that peace proposal. The RSF have said yes. Why do you think that is? And do you think Egyptian cooperation, one of those four nations who have been overseeing this potential peace deal and mediating, why do you think their cooperation is important?
Actually, let me say the Sudanese government more than the army, because sometimes they portray the issue that is army and paramilitary. No, there is a Sudanese government, there is a state, there is an existing state, received a proposal from United States in Washington, D.C. During the visit of a delegation from Sudan headed by the Foreign Minister Ambassador Muhyiddin Salim. So the Foreign Minister, which representing the Sudanese government, in bilateral talks with Sudanese, with the U.S. administration, they received that proposal. But let me go back to June when the United Nations offered a ceasefire or a truce between Sudan and the militia. The Sudanese government accepted, but the militia rejected. And at that time, I didn't hear loud voices attacking the militia because of their refusal to stop or to cease the fire in Al-Fashir, while there was a resolution from the Security Council forcing the militia to go out from Fashir, but they didn't implement that resolution. They didn't welcome, they rejected the ceasefire that offered by the United Nations, so that the RSF has very bad records on that issue.
And Meki, as we bring an end to our discussion, I do want to focus our attention now forwards. Of course, discussions, international efforts towards a ceasefire. We heard Tom Fletcher, of course, talking about the need for aid. But what would a ceasefire truly mean for the people of Sudan, who have faced humanitarian crises, civilian deaths and displacement since the start of this war in 2023?
Tom Fletcher is welcomed in Sudan to cooperate directly with Sudan. We are not talking here about the quartet, which is United States, Saudi Arabia, Egypt, and United Arab Emirates. We are talking about the United Nations, and look here how the Sudanese government, they welcomed Tom Fletcher and United Nations. They welcomed the Egyptian efforts, the Saudi effort. They have very nice and wonderful direct bilateral talks between Sudan and the United States. But the odd word here is UAE, because supporting the militia. So the Sudanese government and even the Sudanese people cannot accept such a proposal coming with a contribution of the party that's supporting the militia. And here is the problem. People need to solve that. But regarding the proposal that came from United States, Saudi Arabia, United Nations, the cooperation, Sudan is open for that. But having a proposal that manipulated by UAE and put on the table in a way of take it or leave it, yes or no, that will not work for Sudan. Sudan will keep reviewing the proposal till it reach a point that is applicable and doable and practical and helping people in Sudan.
Yes, of course, optimism over talks towards a potential ceasefire deal, but fighting still on the ground, millions, of course, displaced. But Meki, thank you ever so much for joining us and providing insight.
Thank you, Joshua.
Want the facts?
The latest developments?
News that gets straight to the point.
Well, we've got all three just for you. This is Firstpost Live, a brand new show, your window into what really matters.
Don't miss it.